Tonight, several developing stories as we come on the air. The pressure mounting on President Biden as sources say he's keeping an open mind about the future of his campaign. Hurricane Beryl slams Jamaica as a deadly Category 4 and now on a path that could reach Texas. First, all eyes on President Biden. Sources tell ABC News the president has privately acknowledged the next few days will be critical in his campaign, meeting with top Democrats, including the vice president, and tonight with some of the nation's Democratic governors. The White House insists Biden is staying in the race. Selina Wang with late reporting. Our other major headline, Hurricane Beryl slams Jamaica. The already deadly storm, the first major hurricane to hit the island in more than 15 years. We hear from some Americans stuck there, forced to ride out the storm. And Beryl could be a hurricane as it approaches Texas this weekend. Faith Abube from Jamaica, our weather team, timing it all out. Raging wildfires threaten communities in the west. A fast-moving blaze forcing nearly 30,000 from their homes north of Sacramento. More than 1,400 firefighters battling the flames as oppressive heat grips much of the country. 150 million Americans in 22 states under heat alerts. The 4th of July travel rush kicks into high gear with millions on the move. News of a Delta flight forced to divert to JFK. Passengers and crew served spoiled food. Overseas tonight, Israel assassinating one of the highest-ranking Hezbollah commanders in Lebanon, igniting fears of a larger war. Matt Gutman from Tel Aviv. Amid the tensions abroad, law enforcement is on high alert ahead of the July 4th holiday. Police putting more officers on patrol than ever before. A tourist from New Zealand killed in what California authorities are calling a robbery gone bad. And America Strong tonight, the Civil War heroes who gave their lives to save the Union, finally receiving the country's highest honor.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is World News Tonight with David Muir.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us on this Wednesday night. I'm Whit Johnson in for David. We are tracking Hurricane Beryl and the new path possibly targeting the Texas coast. But we begin tonight with President Biden sending new signals about the future of his campaign amid calls to drop out of the race against Donald Trump. Tonight, the president meeting with Democratic governors from across the U.S., trying to ease concerns about his ability to lead, shore up support for his campaign, and gauge where they stand. Sources telling ABC News the president has privately admitted the coming days are critical. The White House today insisting President Biden is absolutely not dropping out of the race. Sources also say the president and Vice President Kamala Harris called into an all-staff campaign meeting to offer a pep talk. President Biden speaking with top Democrats for the first time since the debate, including Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, and longtime ally Congressman Jim Clyburn. The president will sit down with George Stephanopoulos on Friday for his first interview since that debate performance ignited the firestorm now consuming his campaign. ABC's Selina Wang leads us off at the White House.
Tonight, the first sign President Biden may be reconsidering the future of his campaign. Sources tell ABC News the president has privately acknowledged that the next few days will be critical, that he has told at least 2 people close to him he knows he's in a tough spot. Sources familiar with this conversation say the president told one ally that though he still views himself as the best candidate to defeat Donald Trump, he's keeping, quote, an open mind about the path forward. Still, today, the White House press secretary insisting the president is absolutely not dropping out.
Is the president clear-eyed about what it takes to stay in the race and what it would take for him to drop out?
The president is clear-eyed, and he is staying in the race. I don't have anything else beyond that. He's staying in the race.
Today, the president joining an all-staff campaign call, telling them, I'm in this race to the end, and we're going to win. He spent the last few days largely out of sight, holding few events and reading off of a teleprompter. His aides have blamed his poor debate performance on a cold, but overnight, the president offering a new explanation, saying he wasn't very smart for taking 2 trips to Europe before his face-off with Trump. This, even though he returned to the U.S. 12 days before the debate.
There's a cold, there's a jet lag. You combine that. He continues to work for the American people day in and day out around the clock. Things happen.
The White House says the president is, quote, as sharp as ever. But tonight, a second Democrat in Congress calling on Biden to drop out. Congressman Raul Grijalva of Battleground, Arizona, telling the New York Times, if he's the candidate, I'm going to support him. But I think that this is an opportunity to look elsewhere. What he needs to do is shoulder the responsibility for keeping that seat. And part of that responsibility is to get out of this race. Other House Democrats are frustrated, saying they need more answers from Biden and his team.
Most Democratic leaders are situated in the same way the American people are, which is give us that reassurance, give us that confidence. And to do that, this campaign is going to have to, this White House is going to have to be way less insular than they have been.
For the first time since the debate, the president has started reaching out to top Democrats on Capitol Hill. Over the past 24 hours, speaking with the Senate and House Democratic leaders Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries, as well as his close allies Delaware Senator Chris Coons and South Carolina Congressman Jim Clyburn. And tonight, Biden holding a meeting with more than 15 Democratic governors to discuss the aftermath of the debate.
I think the governors just want a direct and candid conversation with the president. We want to make sure he's doing okay. We all know him.
Selina Wang joining us now from the White House. And Selina, the Biden campaign on damage control now, as sources say the president knows just how critical these next few days will be.
Exactly, Whit. The president is trying to reassure his allies and donors, but they're closely watching new polls that show Trump's lead widening over the president's after that debate. A New York Times poll out tonight shows that Trump is now 6 points ahead of Biden among likely voters, now 49 to 43%. That poll also shows 74% of voters think Biden is too old for the job. Whit.
Selina, thank you. And that ABC News exclusive interview with President Biden takes place on Friday, his first since the debate. George Stephanopoulos, one-on-one with the president. The entire interview will air Friday night at 8 p.m. Eastern right here on ABC. We move on now to Hurricane Beryl slamming Jamaica. The deadly Category 4 storm with winds up to 140 miles per hour. The latest track showing the system marching across the Caribbean on its way towards the Gulf, possibly hitting the Texas coast as a Category 1 storm. The images just coming in from Jamaica, officials declaring a state of emergency hours before impact. The storm already blamed for several deaths, now targeting the Cayman Islands. ABC's Faith Abube is in Jamaica.
Tonight, Hurricane Beryl is pounding Jamaica with life-threatening storm surge. The Category 4 storm, the most powerful to hit the island in more than 15 years, already knocking out power and flooding roads.
Here in Montego Bay, the winds are getting more intense, the waves angrier as the storm barrels towards us.
Many Americans here are riding out the storm in hotels and vacation rentals.
The winds start blowing a little bit harder now. That power line sparkled a couple of times.
Christopher and Michelle White are hunkered down with their kids and parents in the ballroom of their hotel. The staff making the best of it.
They're still serving us, even though their country's about to be devastated. They're still here worried about us. We're still a little scared.
Beryl has so far claimed at least 7 lives as it sweeps across the Caribbean. The island of Carriacou in Grenada flattened in just a half an hour. Before and after satellite images revealing the scale of the destruction.
Their roofs were flying past. You could see it passing. It was just a terrifying experience.
And for the first time, we're seeing the destruction up close on Union Island, where 90% of the homes were leveled. Aid workers now racing to bring in food.
As you can see behind me, there's lots of destruction. There's no electricity, power, water.
Among the dead, 3 people in Venezuela after heavy rains from Beryl turned roads into rivers of mud.
And we're still feeling the impact of Hurricane Beryl. Over the last several hours, the winds have intensified. The rain also pouring in. In just the last few minutes, a transformer blew just down the hill there. Forecasters say the outer bands of the hurricane should continue lashing the island into the evening hours. Officials will have to wait until conditions improve to assess the damage. Whit.
Now we can see those worsening conditions behind you. Faith Abube, thank you. You and the team stay safe. Let's get right to meteorologist Brittany Bell from our New York station WABC. And Brittany, this hurricane could also threaten the U.S. Gulf Coast.
That's right, Whit. It could impact South Texas late Sunday into early Monday, potentially as a tropical storm or a Category 1 hurricane. Right now, it is slamming Jamaica as a Category 4 hurricane with maximum sustained winds around 140 miles per hour. The eyewall, the most dangerous part of this hurricane riding right along the coast. This is where it's going next, approaching the Cayman Islands late tonight to early tomorrow, and then taking aim at the Yucatan Peninsula Friday morning. This weekend, that pushes into the southern Gulf of Mexico. At this point, it could re-intensify to a Category 1 hurricane as that approaches eastern Mexico and South Texas. At this point, that could bring impacts like storm surge, gusty winds, also heavy rainfall. Out west, a concern, a historic heat wave. We have heat alerts stretching from Washington state all the way down towards Arizona. Multiple record highs are in jeopardy. Sacramento 110 on Saturday. Las Vegas could approach a all-time record high on Sunday. The forecast 118. The previous record 117 degrees. Whit.
All right, Brittany Bell, it's great to have you. We appreciate it. And with that dangerous heat, wildfires continue to rage in Northern California. Nearly 30,000 people in the city of Oroville forced to evacuate. The Thompson fire destroying homes and structures in its path. Several firefighters injured while battling the flames. ABC's Mola Lenghi is in California.
Tonight, the quick-moving Thompson fire near Oroville raging in Northern California. More than 3,500 acres scorched so far with 0% containment.
We just bought our house in Kelly Ridge, so fingers are crossed that everything will be there when this is over. So,
cars, homes, and structures reduced to rubble. The inferno forcing nearly 30,000 residents from their homes, as more than 1,400 personnel worked around the clock to extinguish the flames. That massive blaze fueled by dry, windy conditions, coupled with a crippling heat wave. At least 8 firefighters injured. It comes as dangerously high temperatures tighten their grip on the west. That heat taking the life of a 10-year-old boy in Phoenix on Tuesday after he had to be airlifted off a hiking trail. Temperatures that day soaring to 110 degrees.
It is deadly. I've hiked in Canada and everywhere, but the heat in Phoenix hit me in a different kind of way than anywhere else.
Well, with that extreme heat now triggering some alerts, including here in the L.A. area, those dry, gusty winds now helping spread this brush fire in Simi Valley, about an hour from where we are here. Firefighters racing to put out those flames. Some homes there now under evacuation orders, and some structures are also being threatened with.
All right, Mola Lenghi for us. Thank you. Now to the record holiday travel underway for the long July 4th weekend. And for some passengers, their trip is off to a rocky start. A Delta flight from Detroit to Amsterdam diverted to JFK after passengers and crew were served spoiled food. Here's ABC's Trevor Ault.
Tonight, with tens of millions of Americans taking to the roads and skies this holiday weekend, a medical emergency on board a Delta flight from Detroit to Amsterdam, forcing the plane to divert to New York after passengers were served spoiled food.
Confirm status of medical personnel at our gate.
24 passengers and crew checked out by paramedics on the ground. Delta tonight saying they're working to find out how this happened. Sharzad Javid telling us the issue stemmed from bad chicken.
I sit down and I go ahead and start eating. Didn't taste right, didn't taste good. And it's not like a bad seasoning, it just almost tastes kind of sour.
That incident comes in the middle of one of the busiest travel surges ever. More than 70 million people expected to be on the move to celebrate the 4th.
We just plan ahead as far as like getting into the airport way ahead of time.
And with the TSA is forecasting they'll screen 3 million people Sunday alone, which would be a new record. And of course, the vast majority of travelers are driving. 60 million people hitting the road through the holiday stretch, with the worst traffic expected Saturday and Sunday. Whit.
All right, Trevor Ault, thanks so much. Now to rising tensions in the Middle East. Israel launching an airstrike, killing a senior Hezbollah leader in southern Lebanon. The Iran-backed group then firing more than 100 rockets towards Israel in response. Concern again growing about violence escalating in the region. ABC's Matt Gutman is in Tel Aviv.
Tonight, Israel assassinating one of the highest-ranking Hezbollah commanders in Lebanon, inching Israel and the powerful Iranian-backed militia even closer to an all-out war. Mohammed Nimar Nasser was killed in an apparent drone strike in southern Lebanon, and Hezbollah launching over 100 rockets at Israel in response. It comes as Hezbollah and Israeli officials have traded threats of annihilation in recent weeks. But Israel and U.S. sources telling ABC News both Hezbollah and Israel have essentially agreed to broad parameters of a U.S. brokered deal that would stave off a war, an agreement Hezbollah said it cannot sign until there is a ceasefire in Gaza. But in Gaza, no signs of a truce. Israel is in its 6th day of a raid in the north, the fighting visible from nearby Israeli villages.
We can hear the small arms fire now
taking place in Shejahia. There is a battle going on in there. And in the southern part of the Gaza Strip, the IDF ordering mass evacuations in the eastern part of Khan Yunis. An estimated 250,000 Gazans impacted, women and children seen piled into carts, many sleeping in the streets. Asmahan breaking down from the fear and uncertainty, saying, "I don't think it will remain safe. We have been displaced multiple times." With the ceasefire talks are creaking ahead, one of the main sticking points, as we understand it, is that Hamas wants a full withdrawal of Israeli troops, but an Israeli official telling me today that they intend to hold parts of the Gaza Strip for months.
All right, Matt Gutman, thank you. Meantime, back here at home, authorities across the U.S. are on high alert as millions of Americans prepare to celebrate the 4th of July. Homeland Security and the FBI out with a new warning for the holiday. Let's get right to ABC's Aaron Katursky here in New York. Aaron, officials say some of the nation's largest celebrations could be attractive targets.
They do, Whit, and that reflects concerns about those two wars raging overseas and a bitter political climate here at home. So police here in New York said today they'd be putting more officers on July 4th patrol than ever before. Officers will be patrolling with drones in the sky, boats in the water. It is a complicated threat picture police are looking at, with concerns about lone offenders turning to violence to make a point, a rise in hate crimes against Jews, and online content that seems to amplify all of it. But with no specific threat, Whit, millions of people will be turning skyward here in New York. Whit.
Aaron Katursky, thank you. When we come back, a robbery gone wrong in Newport Beach claims the life of a tourist from New Zealand. And the new warning after illegal fireworks spark a brush fire in California. Next tonight, a tourist from New Zealand is dead in what authorities say was a botched robbery at California's popular Newport Beach shopping district. 3 suspects arrested. Police say there was a struggle during the robbery attempt, and the victim was hit by the suspect's car when they attempted to flee. Police say shots were fired, but no one else was hurt. When we come back, the new warning about the dangers of illegal fireworks ahead of the 4th of July holiday. To the index now, ahead of the holiday tomorrow, officials in San Francisco are warning of the dangers of illegal fireworks. These images here, released by the city's fire department, show fireworks igniting a brush fire. The blaze rapidly growing to 3 acres, illustrating just how fast a fire can spread in dry conditions. And it's official, LeBron James will remain a Laker. Sources tell ESPN James agreed to a 2-year, $104 million contract that includes a no-trade clause. James looking forward to playing with his oldest son, Bronny, drafted last week by the Lakers. They will be the first father-son active duo in the NBA. When we come back, 2 long-overlooked heroes from the Civil War honored for their bravery and sacrifice. Finally tonight, America Strong, honoring the Civil War heroes who made the ultimate sacrifice to end slavery and save the Union.
On the eve of Independence Day, President Biden posthumously awarding the families of 2 Civil War heroes the Medal of Honor 162 years later. Private Philip G. Shadrack and Private George D. Wilson were part of one of the most daring raids of the Civil War. By stealing a train in Georgia, the Union soldiers tried to destroy Confederate railroad tracks and telegraph lines as they headed north. An adaptation of the story featured in the 1956 Disney film The Great Locomotive Chase. But the ambitious plot failed. Wilson and Shadrack were among those captured, then tried and hanged by the Confederacy. While 19 other men earned medals of honor, Shadrack and Wilson had been overlooked for more than a century, until today.
Today, we right that wrong. Today, they finally received the recognition they deserve.
Private Philip Shadrack's great-great-nephew, Gerald Taylor.
We've worked so hard to prove that he was one of them, and he should be recognized.
And Private George Wilson's great-great-granddaughter, Teresa Chandler, reflecting on this poignant moment.
So honored to receive that medal, that it's somewhat tangible that he never got to touch it or receive it, but it's kind of like we're feeling it from beyond, that he's there.
That special honor, long overdue. I'm Whit Johnson in New York. Good night.
Thank you for making World News Tonight with David Muir, America's most watched newscast.